My name is Gene Austin, A-U-S-T-I-N, and I'm originally from Alabama. Well, in '41, my dad was working at steel mills, pipe shop in Birmingham for U.S. Steel, and he left there and come up here to work in the mine. And later on, he brought his family up there. He had a wife and 3 kids, and so we came up here when I was 13 years old. It was long. In a car on old narrow roads, 35, 40 miles an hour. We left in the morning, Birmingham about 7, 8 o'clock, and got here about 9 or 10 at night. It's about 11, 13, 12, 13 hour drive. Shouldn't have been over 8, 7, 8. First thing, we got here at night and drove into the city, well into Cumberland and Benham and Lynch, all of them combined, and all the lights and everything looked so pretty. And then got up the next morning and looked out, couldn't see nothing but mountains. So I cried for about a week. I didn't like it. But the people grows on you, and it all changed. The school was a lot different and everything. Basically, my mother from Alabama, like we worked on the farm and different things. You didn't go to school there like you did here. We only went about 6 or 7 months a year on the farm. But up here, you went 9 months. And they were very strict. See, U.S. Steel owned the school. They brought the teachers in. They built the building. And the kids didn't have anything else to do but go to school. They had a truant officer. They would come down to these schools and check the list of the ones that didn't show up. And about 8:30, 9 o'clock, they were at your house checking on, see why the kids didn't go to school. But it wasn't any problem to me because I didn't mind going to school because I got my lesson pretty good. And then all your friends are at school, and so what? You don't want to stay home no way. Everybody else is at school. There wasn't any jobs for any kids in the coal mining area, so you had to go to school. I come here, and all kids played a lot of sport. So each camp or neighborhood, whichever you want to call it, had their own teams. And they were white, black, they all played together, it didn't matter. So if that camp up there was going to play this camp here, football, baseball, basketball, we'd pick all the good players in that camp to come down here to play this camp, white, black, whatever. And basically, the kids in Eastern Kentucky, the reason they got to be so good, because if you wanted to play sports like that, then summer game, nobody's gonna pick you on their team if you couldn't play, if you wasn't good. So everybody tried to be the best they could to get to play all the time. They'd steal them from other companies to give them jobs to come here to play on a semi-pro league. When I was in the 8th grade, I went out for football, and I was on the second team. And then the next year in the 9th grade, I was playing, and we had at the end of the season, basketball season, they had a school class tournament. And my team in the 9th grade We beat the basketball team. We beat all the classes. We won it 4 years in a row, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So anyway, that year, and I was in the 9th grade, we won the class tournament, and I was a big boy. The coach come up to me, he says, why you're not out for, you didn't play basketball? I said, I didn't want to play no basketball. I'm playing football. So he looked at me and said, you're not going to play any more football. You're going to play basketball. So he went over to where I live and told my mother. Miss Austin says, that boy will not be playing football anymore. Said, all I want him to do is play basketball. So the next year in 10th grade, I went out for the football team again. We practiced, and when the season started, they give everybody a uniform but me. He told me a basketball, he says, you go, the football field was right there. He said, you go in that gym, said, I told you, you're not going to, ever long you go to school here, play any more football. You're going to be set. He said, we are building our school team around you. You're going to be my center, and that's all you're going to play is basketball. And we lost, in my 3 years playing basketball, we lost 3 games. I think we lost one to a school in Ashland, Kentucky, one to Lexington Dunbar, biggest school, and one to Madisonville, Kentucky. I graduated from high school in '49, and Kentucky State wanted me to come down there and play basketball at that college. My dad didn't want me to go down there. He wanted me to go back to Alabama and go to Tuskegee and work my way through school, and I didn't want that. So we couldn't agree, and he said he didn't have the money to send me to school. So I got a job in the mine. And they were working right after the war. Work had got real slack. I was working like 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And half the time they didn't work that. I didn't see where I was getting ahead like that. And then in the 50s, the Korean War broke out, and they had just integrated the service, the black and white. So Marine recruiting sergeant heard there was some good athletes up in here, so he showed up here and recruited me to go in the Marine Corps to play basketball. So I went into boot camp in the Marine Corps playing basketball. I played 1 year there, and in the summer, I was so tall that they didn't have any uniform to fit me, so I'm in South Carolina waiting on the uniform. And so the Fleet Marine Force sent down from headquarters that they needed some MPs. So they went around, you going to North Carolina to be an MP, just like that. And that was the end of my basketball. And I went to school there and then stayed there about 9 months, and the one day they decided in Korea during the Korean War, and they had started the peace talk, they needed 100 MPs to go over there, so I went over there. And the sad part about the whole thing, all the time I was in service, the field was froze. They wouldn't let us take a test, they didn't promote nobody, nothing. And I tried to volunteer to get out and get in some other branch of service. No. So after my enlistment was up, I told them I was getting out. They were, out of the 200 and something of us MPs was in there, about 70 of us, we were always mad, we just got out. And I told them I could go back to the coal mine and make more money than I was making now. And then while we was getting out, the people from Washington, Philadelphia, New York, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, all come down there to try to recruit a bunch of us to go to these cities to be on the police force. And that's the first thing we asked them, how much they paid. They said starting pay was like $4,000 a year. Well, that wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Back in the 50s, I said, nope, I could make way more money going in the coal mine, coming back here to work, because my job was waiting on me here. So I come back. The day I got back, they said the policeman to my mother's house, Gene, your job waiting on you. You can go to work tonight. You don't have. You just took a physical in service. You go right. I said, I want a day or two of rest. I'm not going to work now. So, and I started that. Then, by me doing all that in the military and all, I started working in the United Mine Workers. So, I was like recruiting people and enforcing and, you know, convention and stuff. We were like the police force for them. And I started running for one of the bigger offices, and some friends of mine messed me up. They ran and we split the vote up. I didn't get the job. Meantime, U.S. Steel had been wanting me to go to school just to be a supervisor for them. So, and I got upset with the union and how they did me, so I told them, I'll take the job. I quit the union and started bossing. Labor and unions, they really don't mix. Because, see, with the United Mine Workers, the union has to protect all of his union people, and some of them are sorry people, but you got to protect them and keep that job. And the companies, they're trying to get rid of all of them that don't work regular and don't want to produce and all that stuff. So everybody in Lynch belonged to UMWA that worked here. Everybody in Benham had their own another union, not the same. It wasn't the same. Progressive or something like that, you know, it was. See, in the United Mine Workers, what I really liked about it then was in the 50s when the thing was segregated. To give you an example, like that street over there, would look like this school here. And you can see the sign out there that says Lynch Colored High School. Well, this was all white, lived right here. And that street behind where I live right over there, one side of the street was white, the other side of the street, same street, was black. Then go about halfway up, then it switched. and the United Mine Workers had a slogan like being in service. Mining is dangerous, no matter what color you are, we all work together, white and black. So you gotta depend on each other and you get along. So it was good. And then there wasn't no, the blacks got one pay scale and the white got another pay. They had one pay scale and that was it. And that was the good part about it, way back in the 50s and the 40s. And see, it was in service in the Marine Corps was like that too. No matter what color you are, because each other's alive, you know, your life depends on each other. And you going under that 12, 15 miles back in that mountain, you don't know where you're coming out or what, and you got to depend on each other. Well, one thing about U.S. Steel, if you were a good student and a good athlete, they looked out for you. I had good jobs the whole time. I was, in a way, I was bossing 10 years before I started bossing. Because I used to sit around the tailpiece, that's where the belt come in, answer the phone for the boss, go make his date, and he showed me how to fill his time sheet out and run. Most of the time he's sitting somewhere, going somewhere else, and I'd do his little odd job for him. So when I did get on salary, it wasn't no problem. And then everybody that was working in the mine, they made sure that the people that I worked with, those were the people that I started bossing first. And they all knew me from the union, see, so I wasn't a bad guy, hard to get along with, you know. Well, it started in the 50s, late 50s, and in the 60s it really got going. Automation, you know, where we had, right after the Second World War, we had 4,000 or 5,000 people working here in the mine. Then you getting all this automated equipment, they start cutting down. They cut down to about 12 to 1,500. And they didn't need all those people. So the people that was leaving here, you know, some had family in roots here, they would go to Cleveland, Detroit, and places like that, you know, automobile places, steel mills up there and get jobs. Okay, but if they want to come back here and visit their friends or families, most of the houses were full and no hotels, motels, nowhere to stay. They couldn't do it. So they came up with the idea that we would, for all these people that left here, they started it in '68, would meet in some city at some motel or hotel and just party and have a good weekend of fun. And, you know, remember, you could have, once the big thing get all everybody come, then they group off in a little family reunion, class reunions, and groups that work together, and you know, stuff like that. So that's how it got started. We've been to Marriott in Atlanta, the Peachtree Plaza, CNN building in Atlanta, and out to the airport. We've been there for 5 or 6 times. We've been to the Galt House in Louisville 4 or 5 times, the Hyatt in Lexington 2 or 3 times, and been to Indianapolis. All of these places are downtown now, big places. And Hyatt in Indianapolis and all, been to Milwaukee, been to Chicago, all the places there downtown, Cleveland, Hartford, Connecticut, New York City, Manhattan, and out on the island, Washington, D.C., right off of Pennsylvania Avenue downtown. Los Angeles, well, actually was in Long Beach, and then Western Hills, right out there, L.A., Las Vegas. Where else? Milwaukee, Louisville. Well, they all were nice. Detroit is probably the most favorite. We've been there about 4 or 5 times too. And that's where we're going next year for the 50th reunion. And they all are, you know, it's hard to put it, but usually my sister lives in D.C. and her kids, my brother and his kids live in Cleveland, and I got a bunch of cousins in Chicago, a bunch here and some in other places, and we all meet together and have a good time. That's good. And then a bunch of my classmates, we all get together, you know. Then a bunch of us that was athletes on the team together, we get together, and then we meet with the people from Jenkins and Hazard and Millsburg, you know, all these other cities that we used to compete against, and now we all buddy-buddied, and we talk about old times and some of the things that happened. It used to be from Lexington back this way, but now we got people from Louisville, and my son is a member, and he live in Fort Wayne. And he's a member of the chapter here. He live in Fort Wayne now. Well, it's the closeness of the people here. You know, take me, you know, right now. I'm a member of the golf club up there. I was a member in the group for bowling. I used to do all that and play basketball, us white and black right in there together. I played 10 years on a little semi-pro basketball team they had through here. You know, I played on that on weekends. And see, most of the people here in my career, I either being a union man or boss. I either worked with their daddy or son or granddaddy, the daughters, or when I was bossing, I trained them to be models, white, black, women, whatever. It wasn't no different there. And you could go through the whole community, and I would say you would not find anybody in this whole area that I was a boss or a union man that I ever really mistreated anybody. You know, being in my position. I tried to treat everybody equal, and that's one thing I always ask people when they start working. I'm gonna treat you like a man, you treat me like a man, we get along, no problem. And that, you know, it's very simple. And everybody here, come and been on Lynch, white or black, know me. Because I've been on in 2 or 3 books and been on CNN News and all that stuff. Yeah. The loss of people that die away or leave, you know. And then, you know, their kids and the grandkids don't feel the same way about this place as we do. Now I got 5, 7, 8 grandkids, and they got kids, but they don't live here. They all work in Lexington, Louisville, and other places. And what was so bad about being up here, see, we all strive to send our kids to college. I sent 8 kids to college. 4 of them graduated, 4 of them didn't. But whenever they do get a degree, there's no jobs here for them. And that's real depressing. Now I'll tell you about my son that's a member of here, live in Fort Wayne. And you know what he is? He's a doctor. And his wife a doctor. My other son, the one that passed, that graduated from Eastern, he was one of the chief cooks at the Hyatt on Capitol Hill up there for them congressmen and senators before he died. Most, you know, regardless to what people say, most people from these mountains are very ambitious, you know, to get ahead and work and do stuff, you know. But when you look in the books, you don't see that image. None of my kids ever worked in the mine. They never attempt to go in the mine. Because they all, if you brought me a C or D, that wasn't working. A and B students, all of them, drivers. Well, like this Williams man was interviewing me, and we was out looking at the building. He says, I've been all through Eastern Kentucky, and all this stuff. He said, I didn't know that they were black coal miners. I said, no. I said, they don't ever show that in the news or in the book. But America is like that in a lot of ways. Just like I was in the Marine Corps when they integrated and went to the Korean War and got a lot of medals and stuff like that. But basically nobody knows it. Some things we do, and you can't fault the white man for all of it because we don't really push our people that are good, we don't really help them or push them to go. If your parents don't do anything for you, ain't nobody else gonna do a thing for you. We just don't care. They were in Jenkins and Wheelwright and Pikeville and in Williams from West Virginia, anywhere that they had the United Mine Workers, they had a lot of black coal miners. These little family union things, what they could do like they want to, they wouldn't no blacks hardly work for them, see. Well, Benham had their own union, but they took care of those people there and give them good things to keep them from joining the United Mine Workers, see. Every time we got a raise, they would give them a raise or whatever to keep them from joining the United Mine Workers. There's been a lot of people killed right there in this park right out here, because they had to bring National Guards up here in '39 just to stop the war, shooting and killing each other, union and non-union. And a lot of the people that lived here then had people killed in that. And then you could go through Benham, but you couldn't get off to visit anybody that wasn't non-union, the city that wouldn't do. And then in the 50s, I made the big mistake. That's the first thing I did after I got out of service, married a girl from Benham. Her dad had worked for International Harvest and retired from, and then when I married her, I moved down there, and stayed with her and her dad until I got a house. But nobody bothered me or harassed me because I used to go down there a lot when I was in high school playing sport, and I was a nice, mountable boy, they thought. So nobody bothered me. Now, to show you, see that picture right there? That big picture of all those people up there, that's in Hartford, Connecticut in '83. There were 2,000 people at that dinner that night for our reunion up there in Hartford, Connecticut. Most of the city's crowds wasn't quite that big, but they would be from 1,500 up to close to 2,000, just about all of them. People would look at us come in, a guy asked me, he said, well, how could all those people live here in this little small town? I said, they didn't live here all at the same time. I said, these people from 25 to 30 years, a man come here and get a job. and bring his family. He'll stay 4 or 5 years. Then he go on. Another man, family, come in and do the same thing, go on. It's only a handful of us that really just stayed here, but it was a regular turnover. There's people coming here, getting a good steak, and go on to somewhere else.